Welcome to our exploration of macroeconomic policies. In this video, we'll dive into the strategies governments use to influence the overall health of their economies. Macroeconomics focuses on broad indicators like GDP, inflation, and unemployment, rather than individual markets. By understanding macroeconomic policies, we gain insight into how nations strive for stability, growth, and prosperity. Let's begin by setting the stage for why these policies matter and how they impact everyday life, from job opportunities to the prices we pay for goods and services. Macroeconomic policies are the tools governments use to manage the economy as a whole. These include fiscal policy, monetary policy, and exchange rate policy. Each plays a unique role in guiding economic activity, influencing growth, and maintaining stability. By adjusting spending, taxation, interest rates, and currency values, policymakers aim to achieve objectives like low inflation, high employment, and sustainable growth. Understanding these policies helps us see the big picture of economic management. Fiscal policy involves government decisions about spending and taxation. When governments spend more or cut taxes, they stimulate economic activity, creating jobs and boosting demand. Conversely, reducing spending or raising taxes can slow the economy, often to control inflation. Fiscal policy is a powerful tool for managing economic cycles, especially during recessions or periods of rapid growth. It's about balancing the budget while supporting the nation's economic goal. Monetary policy is managed by central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the U.S. It involves controlling interest rates and the money supply to influence economic activity. Lowering interest rates makes borrowing cheaper, encouraging spending and investment. Raising rates can slow inflation by making borrowing more expensive. Central banks also use tools like open market operations to adjust liquidity in the economy. Monetary policy is crucial for maintaining price stability and supporting growth. Exchange rate policy determines how a country manages its currency relative to others. Governments may let their currency float freely or peg it to another currency. Exchange rates affect international trade, investment, and inflation. A strong currency can make imports cheaper but exports more expensive, while a weak currency does the opposite. Policymakers use exchange rate policy to balance trade and protect domestic industry. Main goals of macroeconomic policy are stable prices, full employment, and sustainable growth. Policymakers strive to keep inflation low, unemployment minimal, and economic growth steady. Achieving these goals requires careful balancing of fiscal, monetary, and exchange rate policies. Success leads to a healthy economy where people can find jobs, businesses can thrive, and living standards improve. Controlling inflation is a key objective of macroeconomic policy. High inflation erodes purchasing power and creates uncertainty. Policymakers use monetary and fiscal tools to keep inflation within target ranges. This involves adjusting interest rates, government spending, and sometimes currency values. Effective inflation control supports economic stability and confidence among consumers and businesses. Promoting employment is another central goal. Governments use fiscal policy to create jobs, such as investing in infrastructure or offering tax incentives. Monetary policy can also help by lowering interest rates, making it easier for businesses to expand and hire. Exchange rate policy may protect jobs in export industries. Together, these policies aim to reduce unemployment and support a productive workforce. Sustaining economic growth is vital for improving living standards. Macroeconomic policies encourage growth by stimulating investment, innovation, and productivity. Fiscal policy can fund education and research, while monetary policy supports business expansion. Exchange rate policy can open new markets for exports. Growth strategies must be balanced to avoid overheating the economy or causing inflation. Fiscal policy uses tools like government spending, taxation, and subsidies. Spending on public projects creates jobs and boosts demand. Tax cuts leave more money in people's pockets, encouraging consumption. Subsidies support key industries and can drive innovation. Each tool is used strategically to address economic challenges and opportunities. Central banks use tools like interest rates, reserve requirements, and open market operations. Lowering interest rates stimulates borrowing and spending. Raising reserve requirements can slow lending. Open market operations involve buying or selling government bonds to adjust liquidity. These tools help central banks manage inflation and support economic growth. Countries may use fixed, floating, or managed exchange rate systems. Fixed rates peg the currency to another, providing stability. Floating rates allow market forces to determine value. Managed systems combine elements of both. The choice affects trade, investment, and inflation and is often based on a country's economic priorities. Effective macroeconomic management requires coordination between fiscal, monetary, and exchange rate policies. Policymakers must ensure that actions in one area don't undermine another. For example, fiscal stimulus may need to be balanced with monetary tightening to avoid inflation. Coordination helps achieve overall economic goals and prevents policy conflicts. Implementing macroeconomic policies is complex. Policymakers face challenges like timing, political pressures, and unexpected economic shocks. Decisions must be based on reliable data and forecasts. Sometimes, policies have unintended consequences such as increased debt or inflation. Navigating these challenges requires expertise and adaptability. Macroeconomic policies are influenced by global events. International trade, financial markets, and geopolitical tensions can affect domestic economies. Policymakers must consider global trends when designing policies, as changes abroad can impact inflation, employment, and growth at home. Global coordination is sometimes necessary to address shared challenges. Let's look at a real-world example: fiscal stimulus during economic downturns. Governments may increase spending or cut taxes to boost demand and create jobs. This approach was used during the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. Fiscal stimulus can help economies recover, but it must be managed carefully to avoid long-term debt. Monetary easing involves lowering interest rates and increasing money supply to stimulate growth. Central banks used this strategy during the 2008 crisis and the pandemic. It made borrowing cheaper and encouraged investment. However, prolonged easing can lead to asset bubbles and inflation, so it must be balanced with other policies. Countries sometimes adjust exchange rates to boost exports or control inflation. For example, China has managed its currency to support trade competitiveness. Exchange rate adjustments can help balance trade but may provoke international tensions. Policymakers must weigh the benefits against potential risks. Macroeconomic policies affect households in many ways. Fiscal stimulus can create jobs and increase disposable income. Monetary policy influences mortgage rates and loan costs. Exchange rate changes affect prices of imported goods. Understanding these impacts helps people make informed financial decisions. Businesses are also affected by macroeconomic policies. Fiscal incentives can encourage investment and expansion. Monetary policy determines borrowing costs and access to capital. Exchange rate policy influences export competitiveness. Companies must adapt to policy changes to remain successful. Financial markets respond quickly to macroeconomic policy changes. Interest rate adjustments can move stock and bond prices. Fiscal policy affects investor confidence and market stability. Exchange rate shifts influence international investments. Understanding these impacts is crucial for investors and policymakers alike. Macroeconomic policies have long-term effects on growth, stability, and living standards. Well-designed policies can lead to sustained prosperity, while poor choices may cause stagnation or crisis. Policymakers must consider both immediate and future impacts when crafting strategies. Long-term planning is essential for national success. Evaluating macroeconomic policies involves measuring outcomes against objectives. Analysts use data on GDP, inflation, employment, and trade to assess effectiveness. Policy evaluation helps governments refine strategies and learn from past experiences. Continuous improvement is key to successful economic management. Reliable data and accurate forecasts are essential for effective policy decisions. Policymakers rely on economic indicators, models, and expert analysis to predict trends and outcomes. Data-driven decisions reduce risks and improve results. Investing in data infrastructure supports better policymaking. Clear communication about macroeconomic policies builds public trust and understanding. Governments use press releases, speeches, and reports to explain decisions. Transparency helps people and businesses prepare for changes. Effective communication is a cornerstone of successful policy implementation. Economic conditions change, so policies must adapt. Policymakers monitor trends and adjust strategies as needed. Flexibility allows governments to respond to new challenges such as technological shifts or global crises. Adaptation ensures policies remain effective and relevant. Looking ahead, macroeconomic policies will address new challenges like climate change, digital transformation, and demographic shifts. Policymakers must innovate and collaborate to create sustainable solutions. The future of economic management will require fresh ideas and global cooperation. Macroeconomic policies can promote social equity by reducing poverty and inequality. Fiscal measures like progressive taxation and social spending support vulnerable groups. Monetary and exchange rate policies can also influence access to jobs and resources. Equity is increasingly a focus in policy design. Environmental sustainability is becoming central to macroeconomic policy. Governments use fiscal incentives to promote green technologies and reduce emissions. Monetary policy may support sustainable investments. Exchange rate policy can encourage eco-friendly trade. Integrating sustainability ensures long-term prosperity. Summary: macroeconomic policies shape the direction and health of national economies. Through fiscal, monetary, and exchange rate strategies, governments pursue stability, growth, and equity. Effective policy requires coordination, adaptation, and clear communication. As new challenges emerge, innovation and global cooperation will be key. Understanding macroeconomic policies empowers us to appreciate their impact on our lives and the world.